he's gotten a little bit better in the 49ers press conferences. I find a lot of his answers and responses to be very short and not with a ton of detail and a ton of authentic emotions. But I will say, I thought this one gave a little bit more insight, at least when he was talking about the Super Bowl loss and coming kind of their ability, the 49ers ability to bounce back. I think sometimes reporters do this where they kind of like give you like a layup, like they kind of expect your answer to be like, oh yeah, we're going to come back next year or whatever. And Deebo Samuel, I don't know if you saw the interview, but his response to her kind of being like, the 49ers were the best team in the league, which they didn't win the Super Bowl, is it, kind of, I don't know. But she was like, they've been the best team of the league. They were the best team in the league. Obviously circumstances happen and not, she said something like the best team in the league doesn't even always get to the Super Bowl. You guys did, but how does it feel to kind of get to the top of the mountain, not be able to hoist that Lombardi and then try to hype yourself up to go again? Are you ready to go win it next year? And he kind of was like, it's emotionally taxing and it is mentally taxing. And just as much as the physical demand, that like mental hurdle is hard. And I found that to be kind of vulnerable from Deebo Samuel.
It's more revealing of Deebo than he normally wants to be, that we got an insight into who he is. And it's emotionally, it's brutal that you make all this physical sacrifice to get to that point and then you lose. And you knew that it took you 4 years to get back up the mountain. What's that going to mean for your career when you're Deebo and you're in your late 20s? If it takes another 4 years, are you even here? And I think that you're kind of faced with your own mortality as a player.
I didn't even think about that when he talked about the 4 years thing, but you're right.
Yeah. So that's humbling and sobering and hopefully focusing, but emotionally, that's a lot to pack. And to deal with all that, put it aside and say, okay, now I'm ready to make another run. We know we've got the best team on paper. Let's prove it on the field. Yeah. And hopefully they can do that. We'll see. But it's not easy. It's very difficult to regather yourself like that.
Definitely. And it felt to me at the end of the year, and especially at the end of those press conferences or locker room interviews that they had, that there were some players that were maybe a little bit uncomfortable, or I don't know if uncomfortable is the right word, but a little bit upset, which reasonably so, but with Kyle Shanahan and with the fact that they really did believe that they were the best team in the league and that maybe it was more mental errors that stopped them from, their ultimate goal. And Deebo Samuel touched on that. He said, we accomplished all the little goals that we set for ourselves to get there. And he even said, like, in former years where we felt like we were the best team, there was some struggle. And it wasn't that he said there was no struggle this year, but he was like, we were doing it. We were doing all the little things. You have to win your division and you have to, like, each step the 49ers achieved. And he talked about like how defeating that can be, to be like, because she kind of said like, and you and I are going to get into free agency in the draft, but she was kind of like, how do you revamp this and kind of add to it to do even better next year? And he kind of talked about more like preserving what they have and almost chalked it up to like luck, which I'm not super, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
but
well, I think that's kind of ego protection. You say that we didn't get beat in terms of talent, we just lost on luck. And that's emotionally, that's a convenient fallback. But realistically, is that really what happened? I mean, I called it death by 1,000 cuts in the Super Bowl, where you can point to any number of like 20 different errors and say, take out 2 of them, they win. But the point is, they made all those 20 errors, and it's why they lost.
Yes. Really quickly, the Niners struggle versus good teams, especially excellent defenses. They need a formula to take control. I agree, and I think when you talk about excellent defenses, Tom and I are going to get into this, but their offensive line probably has a great deal with that. Obviously, game planning as well, but I think game planning can only get you so far, right? Kyle Shanahan's mentality kind of has been that he can game plan around a weak offensive line. Maybe we're seeing that's not what the Chiefs did.
The Super Bowl proved otherwise, that Kansas City had 9 unblocked rushers on blitzes.
Yes.
9.
Now,
that's not the personnel thing. That's
those are just
a
wasted
scheme
plays.
thing on top of a personnel thing.
Just wasted, terrible plays. Now, Deebo did talk about his not former teammate, but Xavier
Legette. Well, same school, South Carolina.
Same school.
Legette tested well in Indianapolis. The problem is that he's a top 50 player now. Exactly. And so that's between the Niner picks, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're going to make a trade to go into the top 50.
No, it's not the highest priority for the 49ers, in my opinion. Oh, Tom went away. Tom. Is this me or Tom? Put in the comments if Tom is frozen. Should I try to remove him and bring him back?
Whoa.
I don't know. Oh, whoa.
That was weird. Okay. We okay?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay. All right.
I was singing you a little song. I don't know if you know.
I heard you going into a song and the answer to what? And then my screen went black and but yeah, we're okay now. Cool.
There we go.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes,
agree.
I am frozen. Your dad says I'm frozen. Yes, I'm
love you,
frozen
Dad.
caveman.
Yeah, people are saying, like, would Xavier be a good replacement for Gray? Gray, it is completely separate. Like, Gray was
they do need a deep
I think
threat,
they drafted him too early, and he was drafted in the late 3rd round, right?
Yeah. The problem with Danny Gray is you have to factor in that most of his catches at SMU were not with his hands. He's a big body catcher, and he had a limited route tree at SMU. So, you want a guy that runs 4.26 sure, but he's got to catch the ball. And I think that's why we haven't seen Danny Gray is he doesn't catch the ball with his hands.
Yeah, and I think I do think that it's like comparing. Yeah, to me they're not in the same realm at all. Xavier and
Xavier Worthy's a better player than Danny Gray. Could the Niners get Xavier Worthy? No. He's in the no man's land again.
They could if they wanted to use one of their top picks on him, but that would lead to a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
So no. But I did want to, since people are kind of talking about wide receivers, which I don't think is the 49ers' biggest need right now, because I think that one of their biggest needs for this offseason is re-signing or not re-signing, but extending Brandon Ayuk to a new contract